All right, viewers. My name is Isaac Poti. I am the host of the Tales from the Tailboard podcast. You can find full episodes on YouTube under Tales from the Tailboard podcast, or you can find my short form content as Smoke Eating EMT on TikTok. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. Facebook will not let me change my username from the Fat Firefighter, which I had changed to Smoke Eating EMT. Still dealing with that. If you're not familiar, I did go under original name of the Fat Firefighter because, I was fat and it was my journey to go from where I was to where I want to be and go full-time career. But that name really wasn't taken off, so I decided to make a change and lateral to a different name. Still, obviously, maintaining both sides of the job and what we do here. So my guest today is former Captain Michael Deal. He is a business owner. He's in partnerships and he's a general manager currently. He did have 23 years of fire service. He has 21 years in business ownership and partnerships. He was a fire instructor, fire engineer, fire officer, a rescue tech, swiftwater tech, hazmat ops, Phoenix Award recipient for the Medal of Valor, and he's a PTS survivor from the service. Our topic today is going to be over engineering and fire apparatus driving. And our topic, or our guess you should say, our title for the episode is going to be From Rookie to Road Boss, the evolution of a fire apparatus driver operator.
To every kid who ever got picked last in gym class.
This is for you.
To every kid who never had a date to no school dance.
This is for you.
To everyone who's ever been called a freak. This is for you. Here we go. Yeah. What? Come on. Yeah. What? Come on. Here we go.
Michael, start us off, introduce us. Is there anything I missed, and anything you want to say to your people?
Actually, no, you hit everything right on the head. And first and foremost, I'm not the guy that knows it all. I am somebody who studies techniques and instruction, and then apply it to the best scenario possible to teach others a more practical way of doing it or seeing it.
Absolutely.
And a lot of that comes from my years of business and learning how to better manage people, and then applying that to the fire service. So, no, you really hit it all on the head.
So being 23 years in fire service and 21 years in business ownership, to me, that kind of grasps that, you were, serious about firefighting, and you still were for the first 2 years. But after 2 years, you decided to open up a business.
Actually, during fire service, a business dropped in my lap. So, during the fire service, everybody always says, hey, we don't make enough money. Actually, that's a real fact, because back when I got started, I think it was $32,000 a year. So, you kind of find ways to make supplemental income. And I ended up, prior to fire service, having a CDL. So I ended up, just having a CDL for a long time, and went into business in the concrete industry, and then partnered with a guy in the garbage service. So I did garbage service for many of years, and then got into retail sales and supplies, and starting up another company. And so that's kind of where all that led.
Mm-hmm. And so that's good. So it's funny to, in my opinion, that really anything else we do as firefighters, you can literally bring it into the fire service as knowledge. Like me as a full-time aircraft mechanic, I can take my maintenance knowledge into the fire service and be a maintenance mechanic for our fire apparatuses and tools, K-12 saws, chainsaws, whatnot, right? You have knowledge of business ownership, which gives you that leadership aspect of running essentially leadership in fire service, which made you, I assume, a really great captain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? And thank you for being an aircraft mechanic, because they could use them right now. But nonetheless, you're exactly right. So, over my years of experience, I've had a lot of ups and downs in business, and better understanding how to manage people, and understanding HR, and then reading people, and understanding their wants and needs. And it didn't take me till I would say my 16th year in business to better understand that, listen, it's not the bottom line.
Hmm.
It's actually the bottom thought. So it's the people that you don't think of that you need to listen to and see what they're seeing and better apply that to everyday firefighting. And so what that did was is that made me to better understand each recruit and
Hmm.
better understand what their needs and wants are. And then also, as they became more involved in the fire service, is to understand their nervousness and not take it to granted as just having them there and then staying on them about not performing a task. So, and then that transpired into my instructor, right? So, uh, you know, better teaching people to understand that the training and not punish them for making the mistake, but
Hmm.
teaching them about the mistake and then how to correct that, and then giving them chances to understand what I'm trying to explain to them and how to apply it, and then what it looks like for them. So,
Absolutely. So here in Oklahoma, when if we do something wrong, most of my management that I'm aware of won't rip you on scene because it's very unprofessional.
mhm.
They'll wait until you get back to the fire station and lay into you.
Well, I can tell you this: it won't happen through your officer, but it will happen around your compadres for sure. They'll definitely hound you about a mistake that you made or something that you didn't do, based off of your years of experience. So,
Hmm.
it's kind of like driving. They give you, when you get your license, they say, hey, in 6 years you're an experienced driver. But in the fire service, anywhere between 8 to 13 years, you're an experienced firefighter. You
And you
just
shouldn't be making mistakes after that.
That's
Shouldn't be.
correct. Yes,
Yeah,
you should. Now, at that point, you should be instructing people on how not to make those mistakes. So,
exactly.
the fire service, when you get in, it's a brotherhood that no one can speak of. Just like the police department or EMS, it's a brotherhood, and no matter where you go, you always want to see a fire shirt, or you want one, or you want to visit a station.
Hmm.
But when all this plays out, when it comes to driving, this that years of service plays a strong part. And unfortunately, we're in a time where the fire service is so shorthanded that
Hmm.
people are being promoted 18 months into the fire service. They're driving, they're being put out in stations where there's a single guy or a dual guy. And
Hmm.
and that's from experience, right? Like, so South Carolina is a really rural state. So I kind of know the counties that play all of this,
Hmm.
where you have one guy who's covering 17 miles,
Hmm.
um,
Absolutely.
but that's across the country. So those guys in their mind, when they're hired and they're put out to those stations, they might, if they've come from a volunteer or a career department where they've had a good leader who's groomed them to handle a situation like that, that their driving could end up into a fatality.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, I was at a station in my career where I did lose a driver while we were responding to a call because he was putting to the truck too early, way too
Hmm.
early, and
It,
so
especially tankers. Tankers
yes.
are with the baffles. It's they're
Mhm.
so super heavy. If you don't have any lick of CDL experience, I mean, you don't have to have a CDL to drive a tanker, but they're just so heavy that these people want to take these corners at 50 miles an hour like they're in a rescue truck, and it's not. That's you can't do that.
Yeah, and it's not even just tankers. I mean, it's also engine companies, it's ladder companies, it's tillers, it's just driving in general, brush trucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, or trash trucks, whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
They're all unique in their way, but unfortunately, in that incident, I had to continue to the call, and the other station pulled up on scene and found the guy, and that's where he laid. And that's unfortunately, that got me more passionate about driving and understanding chassis. So, and building a fire truck, and I was on the fire truck committee. But my value to the fire truck committee is chassis because I've built garbage trucks, I've built dump trucks. I understand, the type of axles that we need, and then some of the questions. Some of your followers are probably engineers that drive rescue trucks. They drive, type one engine companies, and they're just they love the Pierce and the Suffins that can do 80 miles per hour. But my thing is handling that curve, handling that weight, coming to a stop, right? So all of this applies to why I'm so passionate about driving.
And that goes back to using your experience outside of fire service, that 48 hours that you're off, or in your case, if I don't know if you're 96 or not, or were, but if you have 2 days off or 4 days off, whatever you're doing in those days off that you're not on service, you can then bring that knowledge back to the fire service, like you did with knowing what chassis to bring under those fire trucks.
Yeah, and it really comes back to it starts at the top, right? And it comes its way down. So if they're willing to take the information from the bottom and then, transcribe that into their design, then they will have the piece of equipment that they need. So if you're in a city, you don't need a dual tandem rescue truck because you're handling tight corners, you're in areas, you're in traffic. And you're in the city, so you're probably not carrying all the equipment that a outside the city who's either a volunteer or a small municipality that responds to other districts that they may need that, but they may have more open highways. So just understanding that, but just in the driving aspect, a couple things I want to bring up is one. The industry is faced with younger people coming in, younger recruits, younger firefighters, but that's always been the industry, right? Mm-hmm. So nothing changed. It's just the amount of time. So we got older, so everybody looks younger, but we were younger at one point, and the same people were thinking that we were too young. Yeah. The other thing is that our leaderships don't. I'm not going to say that they don't, but they don't look at the big picture. And you can hear from a lot of career and a lot of volunteer that they're not hearing us. They're not seeing the big picture of the morale that's happening in there. So they feel blown off and blase, it goes on like that. Mm-hmm. But where it really fails is in training. So in training, absolutely. In training, we get these recruits in and we push them. We push them. And then what that teaches is adrenaline because now it's a competition. And then when they get out of recruit school and they go to a station and in 18 months they're promoted, well, guess what? They've learned from being on a crew to rush and get out of the station, right? So we want to beat the first truck. The next truck in.
Everybody wants to be first due.
Right. And sometimes, and that's a good thing about being where I am with the fire service is that I was able to control that adrenaline by before I hop in that seat to drive that truck. I knew I needed to get people places. So I'd always leave a door open, so that the alarm would go off in case I forget to just walk around the truck and take a deep breath. Mm-hmm. And then that allowed me to focus on where we were going, what my obstacles might be, and then also be able to listen to what's happening on the radio to absorb what my actions will be on scene.
Absolutely. You want to get into some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So first question I have for you is, can you take us back to the very beginning? What were some of your initial challenges and biggest surprises when you first started learning to drive the apparatus?
Traffic was the biggest challenge.
So you see some of these guys at like New York and they're squeezing by something that's like this tight, right? Yes. But we get there as new operators and we're like, I can't fit. There's no way I'm going to fit. And they're like, rookies.
Right, right. But I had an advantage because of my CDL, right?
Yep.
So I've had a higher skill of training that was given to me, and it took time to get that, and a lot of testing to make sure I was there. So being able to set my mirrors, being able to understand the width of the truck, all of that is things that we miss in the fire service, even today.
Mhm.
Um, but I think the next biggest challenge, other than traffic, was just having an instructor that cared rather
Mhm.
than, oh my God, you made another mistake. Try it again. No, that's not right. Try it again. No, it was like, hey, step out the truck. Let's walk around. Let me explain to you what it's doing. And then at that point, then it became a little bit easier. And that's driving an engine. When I
Mhm.
went to the ladder, that was a whole different ball game. So
Mhm.
driving an aerial is way different than driving an engine. It's very top heavy, and then you don't realize that you have to watch above more than you did on the engine. So there were
Absolutely.
there were always challenges, but I would say those were my two biggest challenges: is traffic, and then learning the how the trucks react.
It makes sense. Um, so going on to some other questions here, what are some of the fundamental skills and knowledge that every rookie driver operator needs to master?
Depth perception. I mean, perception. I mean, that's a huge one. And I say this to all the viewers, whether you're a career or volunteer. It just depends on the station you're at, and if your department has some SOGs where somebody has to get out and back you. A lot of times that just doesn't happen based
Hmm.
off of the scene. But depth perception is one. Number two would be vision. So peripheral vision, always moving your eyes, and those would be the main two.
Hmm. Um, Let me add to that myself and just say, what is your thoughts on just making sure that you're not so eager to hop in that truck and just drive that you know every inch of that truck. Like that truck is now your tool. Your tool is no longer the Halligan or the pike pole or the 200 feet of hose with the nozzle and the fog nozzle. Your tool is every piece of equipment on that truck.
And it's funny you say that, Isaac, because again, I don't know if your followers are officers or are in positions as we are describing, but you will see that when there is a pump ops class, everybody wants to be in it.
Hmm.
Everybody wants to be in it. They want to drive the big red truck with the bright lights and the loud siren, blow the horn, and that's just not how that happens. Now,
The new
uh,
phrase going around is they say we do because we woo.
I really like that. I really like that. That would be a fact. But I'm gonna say this. I have a scar that's right here, and it came from driving the aerial, and it's when I first started driving the aerial, thinking that we had to be out to get to that structure of an apartment, right?
Mhm.
Day one, clip the mirror hitting into the truck, busted my head. So we're out of
Oh man.
service. We're out of service,
Yeah.
right? Stitches, 32 stitches. Come back a week later to get in the truck, and structure fire pops out. Guess what? We got to be first. Same mirror, same scar.
Yep.
Busted it again. And
Man.
then at that point, I kind of took my own initiative to
Mhm.
start putting the drop cord through the door, so
Mhm.
that when it's charging, I've got to take my time. The other thing is listen, I don't care who's running this truck. I don't care who's sitting in that front seat. My job is to get you guys there. I'm a disservice to you right now because my adrenaline is so high. And then at that point, I started learning to take a deep breath, locate the call, travel around the truck, a complete travel, check, touch every door, and then get in the truck and look at seatbelts.
They commonly have told us throughout time, sorry to cut you off there.
No.
They have commonly told us, do not make their emergency your emergency.
Yeah, and you know the sad part about that is it comes back to training, and I get a lot of feeds on training. I get a lot of feeds through firehouse.com. I'm a subscriber there, but I see a lot of those where it says every day, almost every day, there's a truck wrecked. Every day, a piece of apparatus is damaged, and it doesn't matter.
I see one of my viewers popped in. Her name's Samantha Green. She was actually episode 1 of the podcast. She had gotten into an ambulance wreck where she had broken several bones, ribs, or spine, and she's commenting right now down the box that's been there. You know, you read every day that a truck's been wrecked. She is now a paramedic, and she uses that whole initial thing as training to her people in paramedic school and in advanced school. So Sam, shout out to you. Thanks for being who you are and everything you've taught me. Because if it wasn't for her teaching me everything she knows, then I'd be a lot stupider.
Yeah, and the good thing about Samantha is that Samantha has the experience, and she's grown enough to reiterate those instances to teach people. And,
Absolutely.
And that's where people have, PTSD, right? Like, oh my God, I made a mistake. I'll give you a quick scenario. It was raining. We had a driver that was just promoted to a senior. They were driving an engine by themselves and hit a tractor trailer on the operator side and the driver's side of the tractor trailer. Ended up in a ditch. Tractor trailer ended up in the wood line, right? And the guy was punished. Now, I get it. He should have been, although he wasn't prepared for that situation. All he knows is I'm a single guy. I've got to get that truck there, and I need to get there quickly because they put me in this position. Instead of teaching them correctly, and letting them understand the pressures. My thing is if you want to drive with me, one, you got to know the equipment. And if I give you and I had a little old Maxwell House cookie bottle that I had every piece of equipment in there on a piece of paper, and you had to draw it. And if you missed 1 out of 6 items,
I like that.
Then you couldn't drive.
So it's like you pick it out, you find the tool, and then you got to show me where it's at on the truck.
That's correct. And you got to tell me the use. You got to tell me the use. So then what would happen is they'd come back and they'd get another one, and then it may be a 300-foot dead load. It may be a AAA hose. Like which one is the AAA hose? How many feet is a 5-inch? Right. So
how valuable would that also be on a paramedic truck when you're trying to find all of the equipment for, 90% of our calls are EMS based. So, we could use, Sam, if you're listening, you could use that as a training tool. Put everything, everything we use in a cookie jar and tell these new ALS guys or paramedics, like, hey, where's this at?
And what that did was that taught them in their mind what they were touching, where they're touching it, and then what it's used for. So now you know your truck. After that, we're going on 6 non-emergent calls. Non-emergent, like you're going to have to show me you can drive, and I'm not going to tell you how to drive. At that point, after we return from each call, we're going to a grocery store parking lot and we're going to back. And we're not going to back in one spot. We're going to back in 6 different spots. Now, if you can prove to me that you can back and that you are doing this because we're out in an open parking lot, I've put 4 cones down. I'm not there to back you. You are backing yourself. I need to know you can read your mirrors.
Because you're not always going to have anybody there. Sometimes it's going to be just you.
Or maybe you just need to move the apparatus off the scene or out of the way for something else to happen, and everybody else is working a house fire. You never know. It all happens. And and then after that, then we go out and we start running drills where you're flowing water. You're telling me what you're flowing and all of that. Once we've done just that piece of it, now it's 6 emergent calls. Once you drive those 6 emergent calls, if I see that you are coming to a stop, that you're reading the intersection, and I'm going to call out, hey, tell me what the blue car on the right, how far back he was in line. And if you can tell me that, then I know you're looking, you're monitoring. In today's time, and it's crazy because this just happened to me yesterday. We were at a intersection, and it was a 4-lane intersection, 2 in each way. It was a 5-lane, 2 in each way, and then 1 turning lane. The ambulance had the turning lane clear, but instead of the ambulance taking the turning lane, because all traffic, I mean, I sat in the car and I was like, clear, 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 clear. Like everybody stopped. Yeah. Do you know he sat behind the whole line of traffic and made everybody move?
That's unreal.
Right. Immediately I said, hey, that was training. That was, excuse my French, that was a dick move. And that was poor training because everyone had stopped and acknowledged. And I see a lot in the fire service. I'm in the Charlotte area a lot. And you can see in the turn lane a cloud of dust come up behind that truck. And I'm like, that's crazy to shoot through there. I get it, but your stations are 4 minutes apart. Like, where are you going so quick that somebody else isn't already there?
So I want to touch on something real quick before we get too far away from it. You've mentioned running non-emergent calls versus now we're running 6 emergent calls. So in our area, and specifically with my service, because I don't know the entire state of Oklahoma, but when we get a call, I mean, we're running lights and sirens to every call because that's just, they can say, hey, we request no lights and sirens, but our protocol is we don't know how serious that call is going to be. So you could be like, oh, I just failed. Okay, but what happens if you're coding before we get there because we decided to mosey on over there instead of emergently calling? So in South Carolina, Yorktown, specifically where you're at, do you guys, like when you get paged out, do you have the option to run no lights and sirens or no?
No. So what happens, and this happens in a lot of municipalities, one truck is responding emergent and the second truck on a fire alarm is responding non-emergent. And that's just so you got other apparatus coming. So
and Sam commented, it said it's because we don't have EMD training. So our emergency dispatchers don't have, like, they can't run through a call like and help with medical needs right then and there. Like, oh, this is how you do, chest compressions, get them on a flat floor. They don't have that ability. So, it's just like, okay, cool, we'll get you help. They call us, we run out there as fast as we can, get the call made.
Yeah, the call's warranted, right? So they warranted your response. All medical calls are all emergent, unless EMS is already on scene, says, hey, we just need a lift assist, non-emergent, right? And then also with a fire alarm call, some departments respond to 2 pieces of apparatus emergent, but in my area, it was 1 emergent, the next one's non-emergent. And so that was my time to utilize non-emergent responses. The other thing is an officer or a training officer or somebody being trained, you want to take them to an area that they would not normally drive, so that you can evaluate their driving and explain narrow roads. You also want to have the opportunity to expose them to non-intersections and obstacles that may if they're 2 a.m., it might be a deer that run out, So here it's really curvy. It's, you don't have a hydrant here. Now you got to do a shuttle operation. So now you got to draft, things like that. So when I say non-emergent calls, that's kind of how I apply it, but it's different in every department.
Absolutely.
What's up, guys? First off, I'd like to thank you for spending your time listening to this podcast. I'd like to take a minute and introduce the sponsor of this podcast, Red Clover Coffee, a veteran-owned company that single sources great coffee at a great price. They sell ground, whole bean, and single pod coffee options, and when you purchase their coffee or merchandise like a hat or cup to go with it, know that a % of proceeds go back to charities and helping communities in need. If you're not drinking Red Clover coffee, you're missing out. Treat yourself to a bag today. And now, back to the show.
Let's get on to some more questions real quick. I think we kind of hit a lot of like the rookie years and learning the basics. Let's transition over to experienced operation. So this one says, how did you understand the apparatus, the capabilities, limitations to evolve over time? You mentioned that with the cookie jar method. Beyond just driving, what are some of the crucial operation aspects that experienced drivers need to be proficient in? Pump operations, positioning, water supply.
Well, I think first and foremost is knowing your area. So if anyone is in that truck, honestly, they should know their area, and that should be a quarterly quiz. Because growth is happening no matter where you live. And it could be just one house added. It could be 1,000 houses added. So knowing your area is one. Two, knowing your water supplies. So if you are in a city limit and as you go further out, even though it's a city, may not have hydrants. So you need to know where your hydrants really shut off and how they and then what they're flowing.
Exactly. What PSI rates, by what color are they painted? Does your city, govern the type of paint used that, PSI range? Do you know those types of things? And for everybody who said, well, I grew up in school and they told us we're not ever going to have a calculator in our hands, and then you ended up with a phone in your hands. Sorry, GPS is not going to be your best friend. Ask Sam. I still use GPS to this day to get to the dang hospitals because I don't drive to them every day. I mean, my shifts at the station for EMS are like once a month now. And to be honest, I don't remember all the routes to the hospital. And I'll GPS it, and they're like, where are you going? Following my phone. And they're like, you just go here, 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 and here. And it's like, you can tell the difference between me using GPS and then them going, you just take these routes and go.
Yeah. And you know what? I gotta commend Samantha, because Samantha is like myself. She's so experienced that she's seen it all, and she kind of knows how to apply all of that now. And really everything that you're talking about, that we're describing with being an experienced person, is accepting knowledge, right? Like not acting like you know it all. Even
Sam got a second chance at life when she survived that wreck. I mean, they transported her. She had a TBI. I don't know if I forgot that part of it. She suffered a TBI, got out of the hospital, and then went. She was a basic at this time. She goes, at some point, sorry. She goes, I'm gonna be a paramedic, and it's like, you just suffered this wreck as a TBI. You got told that you're probably not going to have a long life expectancy when it comes to the EMS field. And she's like, screw it. I'm going to go ahead and get my paramedic because I don't ever want to be in that position where I can't help somebody.
Yeah. And then the other thing that goes along with being an experienced guy is being able to lead. Like you, as an engineer, okay, you may have a captain in your seat, but your captain's performing a 360. They're going inside the building. So a lot of decisions are going to be made on your aspect, but you have to understand what your limitations are. You aren't running the scene, but you may say, hey, I need that other truck positioned here. Hey, I need you to to forward lay into me, right? Like reverse layout. Like, I need you to do this. And sometimes departments will have different channels for water operations. I've only done that a handful of times, right? Like where I said, hey, water operations are on this channel. Let's do it on this channel. Or somebody else has said that. But nevertheless, knowing your water supply, knowing your apparatus, and then being able to hold your own, which means control your adrenaline, see the bigger picture. Don't assume that because you're the driver that you have to speed, that you have to get them there quickly. You got to keep in mind, if this thing went to court, they're definitely coming after the driver first. And Florida was a prime example when the engineer got hit by a train, right? Like,
I saw that video.
Yeah, it wasn't. Now, don't get me wrong. The captain and the other firefighter got disciplined. Don't get me wrong. But the engineer took the brunt of it. He was fired. And that's because he made that decision. He was in charge of that piece of apparatus. So a lot of times, I'm not telling you not to listen to your captain, but let your captain understand, say, hey, it's my job to get us there. I'm going to get us there safely, but I'm going to get us there.
But they tell us everybody is their own safety officer. And if you think something's not safe, you need to speak up.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. And Samantha could probably speak on that. It's situational awareness. I think before I joined the live, I was watching where a North Carolina firefighter got hit by a car. Like it was on dash cam. And I'm like, how did that happen? But as I looked at the scene, you could see a lot of things that played out there. And the engineer, whether you want the responsibility or not, you take on the life of your crew, you take on the property of the department, okay? And then you've got to have the knowledge to manage all of that, which means you need to have some management skills. And if you're not good at communicating and you're not good at situational awareness, don't be afraid to say, hey, listen, you know what? I want to ride the back. Like, just let me ride the back a little while and learn.
And we had an opinion here. His name's Isaac Good. We actually started off volunteering together at the same time. He said, in his opinion, this is why responding POV is the biggest liability to any volunteer department.
I would definitely agree with that. And that's why there's not enough training. I will tell you this, though, as a volunteer, when I was a volunteer, I used to hold training sessions where the volunteers would arrive first. So you had to learn how to park your car, right? You had to get dressed. Then you had to walk, literally walk more than 500 feet to the scene and give a size up to all incoming units. And I wouldn't turn loose the units for 8 minutes. Wow. 8 minutes before the first truck even checked en route. So I get it. And it comes back to the volunteer leaders and the commitment. I watched your video with the chief. I guess he was the chief.
The captain.
Was he the captain? I don't know. It was a very good. Those were very good videos. But I will tell every volunteer, one thing is commitment. In community, you have a commitment. So you can't just say, well, I'm just going to run to the structure fire. I'm just going to run a code, right? Like, the fire alarms matter. And you ain't got to be balls to the wall. You ain't got to pass on double lines. You ain't got to, like you said, go through a town and get pulled over. But the cause warrants the speed.
To be fair, I wasn't speeding by that much. It was just a little excessive for him.
Well, you won't be the first that's ever gotten pulled over. Trust me. But I will say that experience plays a big part. And the guy that's your counterpart and brother in service, The one thing I will say to you is that if you have a training night, request a POV training. Like really think it out, put your officers to the test to really put together a good training that you all can understand. Because tomorrow you're going to have and when I say guy, I mean both men, women, all included,
of course.
Right? When a guy joins your department, they won't know. And then in 90 days, you're going to consider them a member after attending 3 meetings or however your department does it. And then they've got to go to all these classes. Well, they're not running lights or siren, but they're definitely coming with their flashers on. And they may not have their flashers on when they get on scene, but they're speeding.
Oklahoma says we're not allowed to use our flashers because they will pull us over regardless if you're responding to a fire or not, because hazards are for stopped vehicles only.
There you go. That's the best way to put it. But it happens, right? It happens.
I see it all the time, and it's like you can tell them, hey, don't do that, because I've gotten ripped for it. Honestly, I was doing that before I knew it was a thing until Chief was like, you stop doing that or I'm going to kick you off the department. Yes, sir. And that's all it took.
Yeah, and this is what made me so passionate about driving and telling people about drivers. And I had a young driver, believe me, a recently young driver over a year ago who just wasn't having it because they did the class. Like, hey, we're not going through this. I'm going above you. Like, hey, you need to start teaching this guy right now. Like, he needs to start driving. No, like that makes no sense to me. So where we go back to rookie to experience, adrenaline is going to be a rookie's biggest challenge. And an older person, it's, I guess you can say the way that you perceive that it should be done. And that can sometimes interfere with growth and progression, but it can also hold resilience from younger people. So I try to use my management in this to help educate.
Absolutely. And how many years did it take you from when you first started as a fire? Did you ever do volunteer at all?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
Both. So
is your 23 years all career, or is it volunteer as well?
Volunteer as well.
Okay. So at what point from the very start, like you volunteered onto the department to career or wherever, at what point did you learn to drive?
3 years.
3 years on?
3 years on. And that was a brush truck that was non-emergent only, even on emergent calls. So
they didn't even let you drive the engine, the aerial, tiller, nothing. And I have not been on a department because I'm with I'm not allowed to use their name because I don't have permission, but from a local outboard town of Tulsa. And then I am allowed to use Country Corner Fire where I'm at because I have permission from my chief to do so. But both of these stations are rural. At this station, we have engines, but we do not have ladders or aerials or tillers.
Right. So you guys deploy a lot of ladders to 2-story homes, which is great practice. And don't get me wrong, today they build, well, heck, even 10 years ago they were building engines as tanker pumpers, and they still make them that way with top-mounted pump boards. And you just gotta understand your area and what piece of apparatus you have. But every person doesn't deserve to drive. And I say that with an open mind. Okay.
They want to, but it doesn't mean they need to.
Right. You can't take a guy who's driving a 2,400-pound vehicle, okay, and turn around and put them in 68,000 pounds and let them just drive to the call. It's not the smartest. And it's not healthy for the community because that person doesn't understand stopping distance. So a 68,000-pound vehicle needs at least 350 feet to come to a complete stop without overheating the brakes. Now, we're not even going to talk about the trucks that pull on scene and I smell brakes cooking.
Exactly. And I tell you, one of the first trucks our station, the one I can't name, makes us drive first is the tanker because it's so heavy.
Whew, that's that. But again, it's based off the department. I remember riding in the back and having a window down and hearing those telephone poles. And I'm
Mhm.
like, what the heck? Like, we're really close to this.
Yeah.
It really, Isaac, it really comes down to each department. It really comes down to the person, and it really being in the brotherhood comes with a couple of things: integrity, right? So
Hmm.
if you're a volunteer and you're responding to a call and you're not supposed to do something, if you're opting to do it because no one's around or it's a further away call, then you need to question your own integrity, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
then it comes down to the service, right? So whether you're volunteer or career, what are you doing for your community, but also your department itself? Are
Mm.
you helping other members? Are you keeping the house clean? Are you keeping those pieces of apparatus clean?
Or are you just showing up, sitting in the recliner, watching TV?
Are you a t-shirt fireman?
Absolutely.
And then number three, knowing your apparatus. I can tell you, I was placed at a station that when I got there, I was like, man, that truck's leaning, and they're like, it's normal. This is how it is. So I said, well, you know what? It's I'm driving the engine. I think on that day I was on the tanker, but then when I went back, I was on the engine. And
Hmm.
so when I submitted my repair report, I found plates that were loose on the chassis. I found I-beams that were offline, like they're not aligned, which means that they shifted.
Hmm.
So
And Sam said, integrity to not be too cocky because I'm the best driver here, quotation.
that's a fact. That's a fact. I listen, if I can let somebody else drive and I can get a piece of the action, then hey, so be it. Uh,
Absolutely. I mean,
so
and when I'm on the ambulance and we roll to the scene, our chief makes everybody learn how to pump the truck. Maybe not to drive it, but you will learn how to operate the pressure controls. So
mhm.
that way, if he has to do something drastic, like go get on the line because there's two rookies out there or two volunteers, he can go help them out. And so, if he's doing that, who's pumping the water?
That's a fact. I'll tell you another quick scenario. There was a driver who there was a guy who wanted to drive, and so he finally got to the point to where he could drive. Now he wanted to be an officer, so he became more of a station officer uh, to say, but he didn't know how to lead. We caught a structure fire. First truck in, he's pulling the lines, charged the line in the bed.
Hmm.
Not only that, but his 5 inch got soft during the operation.
That's not good.
But he didn't recognize it.
So was it like out of water? Was it?
No, the hydrant just couldn't keep up.
Oh,
Couldn't
that's
keep
not good.
up. So he needed a relay pumper there to so that it can hold water and it doesn't need to suck as fast, right?
Hmm.
And then they can just pump through that. But nevertheless,
Hey, thanks, firefighter 1423, man. This guy, I check his lives out all the time. He's a very popular guy. And I got to do this puzzle real quick because it's telling me to stay alive. I got to make sure the puzzle looks good.
oh, got you. Firefighter 1423. All right, I'll give that guy a follow. I love
Yeah,
following
he's
people who
super
give a
good
chance.
guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's really honestly about teaching people. Like uh, when it comes to driving and me being passionate, I don't let my personal feelings or what you should do get in the way. What I do is say what you need to learn.
Hmm.
Because you may be a great backer, but you may go forward and not be able to hold inside the white line. Uh,
Absolutely. I mean, if I'm going to put somebody on driver, let's just you always put yourself in the shoes of a chief, right? Like if you were the one to make the calls, how would you make that call? And are you going to put, like, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to put my best friend driving that truck if he's not proficient. Like, is he going to get his feelings hurt because, oh, my best friend didn't put me in the seat? Probably so. But
Right.
but I have a responsibility to my citizens and my community to make sure that the truck gets there properly, that the tax money that was used to pay for that engine stays in solid condition, it doesn't get tore up. I owe the community and the citizens to show up on scene on time and with a proficient and knowledgeable person that's going to run these things.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that piece up because taxes play a big part, and a lot of communities don't understand what taxes do. And if you look at that little bar on your tax bill, it'll say,
Mhm.
hey, 1.08% is going to the fire department. And so that's your protection. That's what you're paying for.
Absolutely.
And we miss a lot of that. I thought that, and I'll give a great example, and it's public knowledge. But Charlotte Fire Department in North Carolina hired a fire chief who has a business degree,
Hmm.
and that guy hired people who have fire degrees under him.
Because
So
he was smart enough to do so.
right. So, normally you see a battalion chief or a deputy chief or assistant chief on the news. You don't really see him there. He's doing more of the managing and making sure they have the tools, the training,
Hmm.
everything they need to provide the city the best possible outcome. But everybody from the bottom is feeding to the top. Now,
Hmm.
I don't know if they, what goes on in and out of those doors, but I just know that a department starts at the top, that morale feeds to the bottom. And if that morale stays
Hmm.
here at a low, then the top will never be able to perform the way it should.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like cutting the head off the snake, right? You cut
Yep.
the head off the snake, the body still moves, but it's just moving. It ain't going anywhere. And so when it comes to driving, buying apparatus and not just focusing on the brightest and the most expensive piece of equipment isn't always the best answer. And I feel like bigger municipalities need to buy every 5 to 7 years and then rotate that equipment because it's been managed to outside departments at a lesser fee so that it doesn't cost them as much to replace, right?
Absolutely.
They've gotten the use out of the truck. And I believe that that should be a model across the country.
Hmm.
Uh, and that has to deal with maintenance. So if you as a driver don't understand how to adjust a air brake, then you really probably shouldn't even be driving because you don't really know how the air brakes work.
And
Uh,
even if, like, I'm applying for Tulsa Fire, which is a major city
yes.
department, and they're going to have a motor pool that's going to do all that for them. I would say that even if you're not responsible for taking care of like motor pool, you should still be knowledgeable on how to run your truck in case something ever happens on scene. Or, okay, you set your parking brake on scene, but it's not working, or maybe your uh, idle drive isn't working to run the pump, something like that. Are you, oh, motor pool or mess with it? Oh, are they, or are you on a fire scene right now and you really need to do your job?
Yeah. And I'd be curious to know how many of your viewers are drivers. And then how many are officers that are career or volunteer that ride the seat when someone else is driving? Now, why would I ask that question? Is because it's a very critical thing for me. The one thing I learned in owning a garbage company and building chassis is that there was a big issue with my trucks. So I needed to know why that happened. I'm an information guy. Like, tell me what happened so I can understand it, and then maybe I can help find a solution. Not find the solution, but maybe I can help find it.
Hmm.
Well, in the process of driving the garbage trucks, I started having garbage trucks break down, and they were stuck in reverse, and I couldn't figure out why that was happening. So I finally just said, you know what? After the third truck, I went down to the shop, to the manufacturer, and said, hey, listen, I know you guys are getting these, but, I really need to understand that. And by that time, another one happened. So they walked me out and they said, you have an Allison transmission. Well, guess what is in most fire trucks?
Allison transmissions. Yep.
And we love them because they're strong and they can shift quickly, right? And the PTO works great on them. Well, if you don't bring that truck to a complete stop, over time, the transmission will reprogram itself based off of you not stopping and shifting from drive to reverse to back your truck up. And so while you're driving, the truck will shift to reverse while you're driving.
That's nuts.
Yeah, but it had nothing to do with the build, has everything to do with the driver. So at that point in my company, I implemented a come to a complete stop policy, right? Like if it messes up, it's on you because we now know what the problem is. And all 200 trucks had to be reprogrammed to show before anything else happened, right? Well, I noticed riding the seat that there were drivers doing this. So they'd pull into, we had a station, there was a main road, they'd pull out in drive while it's rolling, hit reverse, and then start backing. And so then they started wondering, well, why are these trucks having so many problems? I can't tell people enough. If you don't take care of your apparatus won't take care of you.
Absolutely.
If you clean your car, if you come to work in a shiny F-250 because you washed it, then why is that apparatus dirty? I don't care if you're riding the seat. I don't care if you're riding the back. I don't care if you're driving the truck. It doesn't matter. Somebody needs to look at the truck and make sure that everything's right. And if your driver isn't driving the truck correctly, then someone needs to have that discussion. And it should just be a standard.
Well, Mr. Michael Deal, it was great to have a podcast interview with you today, man. I'm really glad to learn something out of South Carolina. I got another interview coming up here in just a minute. I'm actually running a bit behind. I'm going to be interviewing this young man. He's got 2 years of career firefighting on, and he used to be an ER tech in the hospital. And we're going to be talking about the differences between hospital and 911 protocols and why they differ or match up so differently.
That'll be cool. I'll make sure I stay watching, and I'll follow the Firefighter 1423.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'll definitely.
Yeah, you'll see it all in here down in the comments and stuff. You can add them when we end the live, because I'll end it and then I'll come back in and then I'll bring Christopher in and then we'll go from that route.
Well, Isaac, again, I appreciate what a young person's doing, and they really care about the basics and learning as they promote through their career. And I really hope that Tulsa really sees that you have the passion, the drive, and the willing to learn, that one day you can even lead your own station. So
I'm hoping so.
I really appreciate you. Good things to come. Be safe out there. And if there's ever anything I can do or say or pitch in on, don't hesitate. You got my number.
Absolutely. I would love to interview you on some multiple topics. I mean, your experience speaks for itself. Samantha says, love the live. Thanks, Michael. So you got fans already.
I appreciate it.
That being said, Michael, be prepared for your episode to come out full on YouTube the last Wednesday of this month. And then shorts will come out Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays after that.
I appreciate you, man. Have a great weekend.
Yes, sir. See ya.
See ya.